The crystalline formations jutting from Kepler 442c's barren surface caught the morning light of the dying red dwarf, casting prismatic rainbows across the cracked Earth. Captain Lee Hyun-woo stood at the observation deck of the New Horizon, watching his landing team's shuttle disappear into the planet's thin atmosphere. After 18 months of deep space exploration, this dead world was their most promising find yet, and possibly their last before the long journey home. "Captain, we're getting some unusual readings from the surface," came the voice of engineer Choi Min-ah through the comm system. Her tone carried that particular edge of excitement that meant she'd found something worth investigating. "The crystalline structures aren't natural formations. They're showing signs of artificial construction." Lee Hyun-woo moved to the communications console, his weathered hands gripping the edge as he leaned forward. 23 years of space exploration had taught him that the universe rarely offered gifts without strings attached. "Define artificial construction, Min-ah. Geometric patterns, Captain. Too precise to be natural. Dr. Park wants to investigate immediately." "Of course she does," Hyun-woo thought with a mixture of fondness and exasperation. Dr. Park So-young had joined the expedition specifically to study alien archaeological sites, and her enthusiasm for xenoarchaeology often outweighed her caution. "Tell Dr. Park she has 6 hours before we need to move to the next sector. Commander Kim, are you reading this?" "Copy that, Captain." Commander Kim Tae-ho's voice crackled with static from the planet's surface. As the expedition's military strategist, Tae-ho approached every new discovery with the assumption that it could be dangerous. "I'm deploying perimeter sensors around the site. The structures are definitely artificial. We're looking at what appears to be a temple complex." The word temple sent a chill down Hyun-woo's spine. In humanity's brief but eventful expansion into the galaxy, they had encountered the ruins of 17 different alien civilizations. Every single one had been extinct for millennia, leaving behind only fragments of their cultures and technologies. The discovery of religious or ceremonial sites often revealed the most about these lost peoples, and sometimes the most disturbing truths about why they had vanished. 3 hours later, Dr. Park So-young's excited voice echoed through the ship's communication systems. "Captain, you need to see this. We found inscriptions, detailed hieroglyphic warnings carved into the temple walls. The preservation is incredible." Hyun-woo made his way to the shuttle bay, curiosity overriding his usual caution. The short flight to the surface gave him time to study the preliminary scans Min-ah had transmitted. The temple complex was vast, easily covering several square kilometers, with spiraling towers that seemed to defy conventional architectural principles. The crystalline material wasn't just decorative, it appeared to be some form of advanced data storage medium. The temple's interior took his breath away. Towering walls of translucent crystal stretched upward into darkness, their surfaces covered in intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Dr. Park So-young knelt before one wall, her portable scanner humming as it analyzed the alien script. "The language appears to be from the Valdari civilization," she explained without looking up, her voice hushed with reverence. "We've only found fragments of their writing before, but this is a complete narrative sequence." "Commander Kim?" Tae-ho emerged from the shadows, his expression grim. "Dr. Park has been translating for the past hour, Captain. What she's found is concerning." So-young finally turned to face them, her eyes bright with a mixture of excitement and unease. "These aren't just historical records, Captain. They're warnings, prophecies about a coming catastrophe that would sweep across the galaxy." She gestured to the carved symbols, her scanner projecting a rough translation into the air above them. "Listen to this. From the void between stars shall come the great devouring, not of flesh and bone, but of worlds and dreams. They consume, not with hunger but with hope, spreading like wildfire across the endless dark." Engineer Choi Min-ah looked up from her technical analysis of the crystal matrices. "Captain, the dating puts these inscriptions at roughly 40,000 years old. But here's the strange part. The crystalline storage medium is still active. It's like they designed this place to preserve the message for exactly this long. There's more," So-young continued, her voice growing more urgent. "They describe the source of this great devouring beings from a blue-green world of the third star, who know not the meaning of impossible, and whose greatest weapon is their refusal to accept the natural order. The silence that followed was profound. Hyunwoo felt the weight of realization settling over the group like a heavy blanket. Earth was the third planet from its star, and humanity's homeworld was indeed blue-green when viewed from space. It could be coincidence, Taeho said, but his voice lacked conviction. I thought so too, So Young replied, pulling up additional data on her scanner. Until I cross-referenced our xenoarchaeological database. Captain, we've found similar warnings on 12 different dead worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Every single civilization that reached sufficient technological development left warnings about the same thing, a species that would reshape the galaxy through unstoppable expansion. Minna's scanner beeped insistently. There's something else. Everyone. The crystal matrix is responding to our presence. It's activating deeper layers of information storage. The temple walls began to glow more brightly, and new symbols appeared in the crystal, as if the ancient structure were awakening after millennia of dormancy. The hieroglyphs told a story of civilizations that had thrived for eons, in careful balance, each species maintaining their place in a stable galactic order. Look at this section, So Young whispered, her scanner working frantically to translate the new text. They weren't just warning about destruction. They were warning about transformation. These beings turn every world they touch into something new, something unprecedented. They do not conquer, they inspire. They do not destroy, they change everything until nothing remains as it was. The implications hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. Humanity's expansion into space had indeed been rapid by any galactic standard. In just 4 centuries, they had gone from a single world to inhabiting 200 star systems. Every human colony became a hub of innovation, adaptation, and further expansion. They terraformed dead worlds, built cities in asteroid belts, and turned the most hostile environments into thriving communities. Captain, Minna said quietly, if these prophecies are accurate, then every alien civilization we might encounter already knows about us. They've been expecting us for 40,000 years. The crystal walls pulsed with increasing intensity, and a final section of text appeared, larger and more elaborate than the rest. So Young's scanner struggled with the translation, but gradually the words appeared in the projected display. The final warning, she read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. They will come with questions instead of answers, with dreams instead of acceptance, with hope instead of wisdom. In their wake, the galaxy will never again know peace, for they will force all beings to choose between growing and dying, between changing and remaining forever still. This choice will either save all life or destroy it utterly. Commander Taeho moved closer to the translation display, his military mind already working through the strategic implications. If this is true, Captain, then first contact protocols are going to be more complex than anyone anticipated. We are not just explorers. According to these prophecies, we're harbingers of galactic transformation. The weight of the discovery settled over them all. They had come to this dead world seeking archaeological treasures and scientific knowledge. Instead, they had found evidence that humanity's very existence had been prophesied by ancient civilizations as either the galaxy's salvation or its doom. As the temple's glow began to fade, returning to its dormant state as if satisfied that its message had been delivered, Captain Lee Hyunwoo made a decision that would echo across the stars. Prepare. Full documentation of everything we've found here. We're changing course, heading directly back to Earth. Command needs to know about this immediately. The discovery on Kepler 442c would prove to be just the beginning. Across the galaxy, other ancient warnings lay hidden, waiting to reveal the full scope of the prophecy that had identified humanity as the force that would either unite the stars or tear them apart forever. Ancient alien prophecy warned about one thing. Humans, the crystalline spires of Zephyrian Prime, pierced the violet sky like needles of pure light, their surfaces reflecting the twin suns that had witnessed 47 different species come together in unprecedented cooperation. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai stood at the observation deck of the human embassy, watching alien shuttles weave between the towering structures with graceful precision that spoke of millennia of refined civilization. 6. Months had passed since Captain Lee's discovery, and the ripple effects were still spreading through the galaxy like cracks in glass. What had begun as a routine archaeological find had become the most significant diplomatic crisis in recorded galactic history. The emergency session begins in 1 hour, Dr. Shin Dong-min announced as he entered the observation lounge, his arms laden with data tablets and historical records. As Earth's foremost expert on galactic civilizations, he had been working tirelessly to understand the implications of the ancient prophecies. 17 species have formally requested humanity's immediate quarantine. 23 more are undecided. Ji-hai turned from the window, her diplomatic composure masking the anxiety that had been building for weeks. And our supporters? 7 species have spoken in our favor, mostly the younger civilizations. Dong-min set down the tablets with a weary sigh. But even their wavering, the Confederation's xenoarchaeological teams have confirmed similar prophecies on 38 different worlds now. The consistency is troubling. The discoveries had multiplied exponentially once the Galactic Confederation began actively searching. Every major extinct civilization had left warnings about the same phenomenon, a species from a blue-green world that would spread across the galaxy with unprecedented speed, transforming everything they touched. The mathematical probability of such consistent predictions being coincidental was virtually zero. "Tell me about the opposition," Ji-hai said, settling into her chair and preparing for what she knew would be another difficult briefing. Dong-min activated the holographic display, showing detailed profiles of the Confederation's most influential members. High Chancellor Vexitar leads the traditionalist faction. The Zephyrians have maintained their current boundaries for 12,000 years. They see our expansion rate as fundamentally destabilizing. The hologram shifted to display a tall, elegant being with crystalline features that seemed to shift color in the light. Vexitar represented everything the Galactic Confederation stood for: stability, measured progress, and careful balance between species. To beings like him, humanity's rapid expansion from 1 world to 200 star systems in just 4 centuries wasn't impressive. It was terrifying. Admiral Quinthera of the Hegemony Fleet is more direct in her concerns, Dong-min continued, bringing up the image of an imposing figure with 4 arms and metallic skin. Her species has been monitoring our military expansion. In her words, no peaceful species builds defensive installations on every world they colonize. Ji-hai winced. The Admiral wasn't wrong. Humanity's expansion had been accompanied by comprehensive defensive networks on every colony world. To humans, this seemed like simple prudence. To alien observers who had maintained peaceful borders for millennia, it looked like preparation for conquest. And Scholar Premoth? The hologram displayed an ethereal being that seemed to be composed, more of energy than matter. The ethereal collective's representative is perhaps the most disturbing, Dong-min admitted. As telepaths, they've been monitoring the psychological impact of human contact on other species. According to their reports, prolonged exposure to human crews results in what they call expansion syndrome, increased risk-taking behavior, questioning of traditional limitations, and desire for exploration. The observation lounge fell silent as the implications sank in. The ancient prophecies hadn't warned about military conquest or technological domination. They had warned about something far more insidious, the spread of human attitudes and behaviors that fundamentally challenged the stability that had kept the galaxy peaceful for eons. "Show me the expansion data," Ji-hai requested. The hologram, transformed into a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with different colors representing the territorial boundaries of various species. The Zephyrians occupied a stable cluster of 47 worlds that hadn't changed in 12 millennia. The Hegemony controlled 63 systems that had remained constant for 8,000 years. Every major civilization showed the same pattern: controlled, limited expansion that had reached equilibrium long ago. Then the display added humanity's presence to the map. Red dots appeared like a spreading infection, showing Earth's expansion over the past 4 centuries. The pattern was unmistakable, exponential growth that showed no signs of slowing down. At our current rate, Dongmin said quietly, we'll have colonies in over 1,000 systems within the next 2 centuries. That's more expansion in 600 years than most species achieve in 10,000. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Ji-hai activated the communication system, and the face of Commander Kim Tae-ho appeared in the hologram. He was calling from the border regions where human and alien territories intersected. Ambassador, we have a situation developing in the outer reach sectors, Tae-ho reported, his military bearing unable to completely hide his concern. 3 separate alien delegations have established observation posts along our territorial boundaries. They're not threatening, but they're clearly monitoring our activities. What kind of monitoring? Ji-hai asked. Detailed scans of our colony ships, analysis of our terraforming operations, and most concerning, they're interviewing alien refugees who have sought sanctuary in human space. Dr. Shin leaned forward. Refugees. Young aliens mostly, individuals, who've left their home civilizations to experience what they call the human way of life. Their families and governments are not pleased. The pieces began falling into place in Ji-hai's mind. The Galactic Confederation's fear wasn't just about territorial expansion, it was about cultural contamination. Human colonies had become beacons for alien individuals who felt constrained by their own society's careful limitations. These refugees were living proof that human influence could fundamentally change how other species thought about growth, exploration, and possibility. How many refugees are we talking about? She asked. Current estimates suggest nearly 50,000 aliens now live in human space, with more arriving daily. They're particularly drawn to our frontier colonies, the places where we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. After ending the communication with Tae-ho, Ji-hai and Dr. Shin sat in contemplative silence. The true scope of the crisis was becoming clear. The ancient prophecies hadn't been wrong. Humanity was transforming the galaxy not through conquest but through inspiration. Every human colony became a demonstration that the careful limitations maintained by other species weren't necessary. Every successful terraforming project proved that hostile worlds could be made habitable. Every technological breakthrough showed that the word impossible was just a temporary inconvenience. There's something else, Dongmin said eventually, pulling up another set of data. I've been analyzing the historical records of extinct civilizations. Every species that left these prophecies had one thing in common. They had all achieved what we might call perfect stability. No expansion, no major changes, no challenges to their established order. And then they died out, Ji-hai observed. Exactly. Not from war or catastrophe, but from stagnation. They became so focused on maintaining balance that they stopped growing, stopped adapting, stopped evolving. The prophecies weren't just warnings about us. They were final messages from civilizations that realized too late that perfect stability is another word for death. The ambassador moved back to the observation window, watching the alien traffic flow in its orderly patterns around Zephyrian Prime. The city was beautiful, efficient, and utterly unchanged from descriptions written 5,000 years ago. It was a monument to stability and a tomb for progress. The Confederation isn't afraid that we'll destroy them, she realized. They're afraid that we'll force them to grow again, that our very existence will make stagnation impossible. A priority alert flashed on the communication console. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was about to begin, and 47 species would decide whether humanity represented hope or catastrophe for the galaxy. As Ji-hai prepared to defend her species before judges who had spent millennia perfecting the art of staying exactly the same, she understood that they weren't just debating territorial boundaries or diplomatic protocols. They were deciding whether the galaxy would choose growth or death, change or eternal stagnation. And the ancient prophecies suggested that this choice, when it finally came, would determine the fate of every living being among the stars. Ancient alien prophecy warned about one thing. Humans The plague struck 3 human colonies and 2 alien settlements simultaneously, spreading through the border systems like a digital wildfire through organic neural networks. Colonel Bayek In-ho received the emergency transmission while his Special Forces unit was conducting routine patrol exercises near the contested frontier. But nothing about the message was routine. "Sir, we're getting reports of total communication blackout from New Sejong Colony," Lieutenant Nam Woo-jin reported from the communication station, his young face pale with concern. Same pattern on Kepler Station and the agricultural world of New Busan. No response to any channels. In-ho studied the tactical display showing the affected systems. 3 years of military service in the border systems had taught him to recognize patterns, and this one sent ice through his veins. The affected colonies formed a perfect triangle in space, each exactly equidistant from the others. Natural plagues didn't spread in geometric patterns. "Colonel, incoming priority transmission from Dr. Kang Eun-ji at the Xenobiology Research Station," came another voice from the crew. "She says it's urgent." The holographic display activated, revealing the concerned face of Dr. Kang Eun-ji, humanity's leading expert on alien biology and psychology. Her research station orbited the border world of Harmony 7, one of the few places where humans and aliens work together on joint scientific projects. "Colonel Bayek, we have a crisis," she said without preamble. "The plague affecting our colonies isn't natural. It's been engineered to target both human and alien neurological systems. But that's not the worst part." In-ho felt his military instincts sharpen. "What's the worst part, Doctor?" "The plague is just the beginning. Long-range sensors are detecting massive automated defense platforms emerging from subspace around each affected system. They're attacking any ship that tries to approach, human or alien. Colonel, these aren't random attacks. Someone is testing us." The tactical situation became clear with terrifying efficiency. The affected colonies contained roughly 2 million humans and 500,000 aliens from 7 different species. The automated defenses made evacuation impossible, and the plague would kill everyone within weeks if no intervention occurred. It was a scenario designed to be unsolvable. Any rational military commander would write off the losses and retreat to safer territory. "Sir," Lieutenant Nam Woo-jin interrupted, his voice tight with emotion. "Incoming transmission from New Sejong. It's my sister, sir. She's one of the colonial administrators." In-ho watched as the young officer's personal stakes became part of the larger crisis. Nam Hye-jin's face appeared on a secondary display, her image flickering due to interference from the automated defenses. Behind her, the colonial administration center showed signs of the plague's effects. People collapsed at their workstations. Alien refugees huddled together in quarantine areas. "Jinnah, if you can hear this, tell them we're not giving up," she managed to say before the transmission cut to static. "The aliens here, they're helping care for our sick. Old Veltar from the Merchant Guild, he's been working around the clock to distribute medicine. We're in this together." The colonel made his decision with the swift certainty that had earned him his rank. "Get me fleet communications. I want every available ship in the sector, military and civilian, and contact the alien settlements. See if any of their vessels are willing to coordinate a joint operation." Dr. Kang's image reappeared on the display. "Colonel, I'm receiving cooperation requests from alien vessels throughout the region. Young aliens mostly. Ones who've been influenced by working alongside humans. Their governments are ordering them to withdraw, but many are refusing." What followed over the next 6 hours would later be studied at military academies across the galaxy as either the most brilliant tactical maneuver or the most insane gamble in recorded history. Colonel Bayek In-ho coordinated a 3-pronged assault that defied every principle of conventional warfare. Pilot Oh Hai-wan led the most dangerous part of the operation. Flying supply runs through automated defense networks that could vaporize her fighter craft with a single direct hit. Her ship, the Dancing Phoenix, became a legend in those 6 hours as she performed impossibly precise maneuvers to deliver medical supplies and evacuation pods to trapped colonists. Phoenix to command, "I'm seeing something incredible down here," she reported during her 4th run to New Sejong. "The human and alien civilians are working together like they've been partners for decades. Alien medics treating human patients, human engineers fixing alien life support systems. Colonel, they're not just surviving, they're thriving under pressure. Meanwhile, Dr. Kang Yoon-ji worked frantically to develop a cure for the engineered plague, coordinating with alien scientists who had defied their own government's orders to withdraw. Her research station became a hub of unprecedented cooperation as species that had never directly collaborated before shared their medical knowledge. The breakthrough came from the hegemony medic Kixandra, she reported to Colonel Bayek during the crisis. She recognized that the plague targets the neural pathways responsible for risk assessment. It's designed to make the infected too cautious to attempt escape or resistance, but working together we've developed a treatment that not only cures the plague, but enhances cooperative problem-solving abilities. Lieutenant Nam Woo-jin found himself coordinating with young aliens whose enthusiasm for the rescue mission matched his own. Tikva, a Zephyrian engineering student, worked alongside him to hack the automated defense systems. Your sister's transmissions are inspiring more than just humans, Tikva told him during a brief break in their work. Young members of my species are monitoring your rescue efforts. Many are questioning why we maintain such rigid boundaries when cooperation yields such remarkable results. The climax came when the automated defenses suddenly tripled their firepower, as if responding to the rescue mission's success. Colonel Bayek realized that the test wasn't just about solving an impossible problem. It was about doing so in a way that demonstrated human values under extreme pressure. All ships, this is Colonel Beck, he announced over the joint communication channel. We're not leaving anyone behind, human or alien. Every life in these systems matters. Continue the rescue operations. Pilot Oh Hae-won's response epitomized the human approach. Copy that, Colonel. The Phoenix doesn't know the meaning of impossible. The automated defenses were overcome not through superior firepower, but through coordinated efforts that confused their targeting systems. Ships piloted by humans used unpredictable, seemingly irrational maneuvers that the ancient defense AI couldn't calculate, while alien vessels provided precise technical support that maximized efficiency. Dr. Kang's medical breakthrough saved not only the plague victims, but created the first truly universal treatment that worked across multiple species. The cure required samples from both human and alien immune systems, making cooperation literally essential for survival. When the crisis finally ended, the statistics told a story that shook the foundations of galactic civilization. 0 human colonies had been abandoned. 0 alien refugees had been left behind. The casualty rate was less than 3%, unprecedented for a crisis of this magnitude. But the most disturbing statistic, from the Galactic Confederation's perspective, was the number of young aliens who had participated in the rescue operations despite explicit orders from their governments to withdraw. Over 10,000 alien vessels had joined the human-led rescue effort, and their crews returned home fundamentally changed. The test has failed catastrophically, Admiral Quinthera reported to the emergency session of the Galactic Council. Instead of proving humans are dangerous, the crisis has demonstrated that human influence makes other species more capable, more courageous, and more willing to challenge established limitations. High Chancellor Vextar's response was filled with the kind of fear that came from watching one's deepest beliefs crumble. The prophecies warned us of this. They don't conquer through force. They conquer through inspiration. Every species that worked alongside them in this crisis has been fundamentally altered. Scholar Premoth's telepathic analysis was the most chilling of all. The young aliens who participated in the rescue operations are no longer psychologically compatible with their home civilizations. They've experienced what the humans call growth through adversity, and can no longer accept the limitations their species have maintained for millennia. The border systems crisis had been designed as the ultimate test of the ancient prophecies. Instead, it became proof that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or military might. It was their absolute refusal to accept that any problem was truly unsolvable, and their ability to inspire that same refusal in others. As the rescue, ships returned to their home ports carrying survivors who had experienced unprecedented cooperation between species. The galaxy faced a new reality. The test had not contained humanity's influence. It had amplified it beyond anything the ancient prophecies had envisioned. The Valdari archive existed in a space between spaces, a pocket dimension that defied conventional physics and challenged every assumption about the nature of reality. Professor Lim Kyung-soo had spent 3 months preparing for this moment, but nothing could have readied him for the sight of a library that contained the complete knowledge of a civilization that had vanished 50,000 years ago. The dimensional gateway is stabilizing, Captain Ryu Sung-min reported from the bridge of the research vessel Eternal Quest. His voice carried the weight of discovery that had driven him through 18 months of following cryptic clues hidden within the border system's crisis. Professor, you have approximately 6 hours before the pocket dimension shifts out of phase with our reality. Kyung-soo floated through the archive's crystalline corridors, his environmental suit protecting him from the exotic energies that preserved this impossible place. Dr. Hong Ye-jin accompanied him, her expertise in dead languages essential for understanding the vast repository of alien knowledge that surrounded them. The organization system is beyond anything we've encountered, Ye-jin observed, scanning the towering data crystals that lined the archive's walls. The Valdari didn't just preserve their own records, they collected the final testimonies of dozens of other civilizations. The archive's central chamber took their breath away. A massive holographic display showed the galaxy as it had existed 50,000 years ago, populated by thousands of thriving civilizations. Stars pulsed with different colors to indicate various species' territories, creating a tapestry of life that made the current galaxy seem barren by comparison. Professor, look at this, Captain Ryu called from a control interface that had responded to his touch. The archive is reacting to our presence. It's activating historical sequences that seem specifically designed for humans. The holographic galaxy began to change, showing the progression of galactic civilization across millennia. Kyung-soo watched in fascination as the display revealed a pattern of incredible expansion and innovation. Species spread across vast regions of space, terraformed impossible worlds, and pushed the boundaries of science and exploration with reckless abandon. This is nothing like the current Galactic Confederation, Ye-jin breathed. These civilizations were expanding, growing, constantly pushing into new frontiers. Then the display showed the beginning of what the Valdari records called the Great Stagnation, a philosophical movement that began on a single world and spread like a virus through galactic civilization. The movement preached that unlimited growth led to inevitable destruction, that expansion beyond certain limits was inherently dangerous, and that true wisdom lay in achieving perfect balance and maintaining it forever. Look at the timeline. Kyung-soo pointed to the data streams flowing beneath the galactic display. The stagnation didn't happen overnight. It took thousands of years, but one by one, species began voluntarily limiting their expansion. They stopped exploring. They stopped growing. The holographic record showed the tragic progression with clinical precision. The first species to embrace stagnation were praised as wise and enlightened. Others followed their example, convinced that controlled limitation was the path to eternal peace. Exploration ships were recalled. Terraforming projects were abandoned. Research into advanced technologies was deemed too dangerous and discontinued. Dr. Hong Ye-jin discovered the Valdari's own records, their final entries before they too succumbed to the philosophy of limitation. Professor, this is remarkable. The Valdari were one of the last free-thinking species. They saw what was happening and tried to warn future generations. The records revealed the truth behind the ancient prophecies with devastating clarity. The warnings about humanity weren't predictions of future evil. They were desperate messages from dying civilizations trying to preserve the knowledge that growth and exploration were not inherently destructive. The prophecies were instructions, Kyung-soo realized, his voice filled with awe and horror. They knew that eventually a species would arise that still possessed the drive to expand and explore. They were trying to warn us not about what we would do wrong, but about what everyone else had done wrong. Captain Ryu made a discovery that sent chills through the research team. Professor, the automated defense systems we encountered during the border crisis, they're not ancient weapons of extinct civilizations. According to these records, They're enforcement mechanisms created by the early Galactic Confederation to prevent any species from expanding too rapidly. The archive revealed the complete truth with systematic thoroughness. The current peaceful galactic order wasn't the result of natural evolution or wisdom learned through conflict. It was an artificially imposed system of limitation that had been enforced for tens of thousands of years. Any species that showed signs of rapid expansion was subjected to increasingly severe tests until they either accepted limitations or were eliminated. "This explains everything," Ye Jin said, her voice tight with emotion. "The border crisis wasn't a random test of our character. It was a standard enforcement protocol designed to force expanding species into accepting limitations. The archive's final revelation was the most shocking of all. The Valdari records contained detailed analysis of galactic life patterns over millions of years. Species that embraced unlimited growth and exploration didn't destroy themselves. They evolved, transcended their limitations, and eventually moved beyond the galaxy to explore other dimensions of reality. The species that chose stagnation invariably went extinct within a few thousand years, victims of their own refusal to adapt and grow. The galaxy had been caught in a cycle of artificial limitation for 50 millennia, with each new generation of species being convinced that the previous cycle's extinction was caused by dangerous expansion rather than terminal stagnation. "Professor," Captain Ryu called urgently, "the dimensional gateway is becoming unstable. We need to finish our research and evacuate." Kyung-Soo gathered the most crucial data crystals while Dr. Hong completed her translation of the Valdari's final message. The ancient civilization's last words were both a warning and a prophecy. The cycle will continue until a species arises that possesses both the wisdom to understand our warnings and the courage to ignore them. These beings will force the galaxy to choose between growing together or dying together. In this choice lies either salvation or doom. As the research team evacuated the collapsing pocket dimension, they carried with them the knowledge that would shatter the foundations of galactic civilization. Humanity hadn't stumbled into an ancient prophecy. They had been specifically chosen by the last free-thinking species as the catalyst for either the galaxy's rebirth or its final destruction. The Valdari archive vanished into the space between spaces, its message delivered after 50,000 years of waiting. Professor Lim Kyung-Soo looked at the data crystals containing the complete truth about galactic history and realized that their discovery would force every species in the galaxy to confront a fundamental question. Was the safety of stagnation worth the price of eventual extinction? The ancient truth was now revealed, but the most dangerous part of their journey was just beginning. They had to return to a galaxy where the majority of species had spent millennia convincing themselves that limitation was wisdom, and show them that their greatest fear, unlimited human expansion, might actually be their only hope for survival. President An Soo-jin stood before the assembled leaders of humanity, the weight of an entire galaxy's future resting on the decision she was about to announce. The emergency session had been called after Professor Lim's return from the Valdari archive, and the revelations contained in those ancient data crystals had fundamentally changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the cosmos. "The situation is unprecedented," Admiral Park Jun-seok reported from the military briefing station, his weathered features reflecting the strain of recent events. 43 alien species have officially declared humanity a galactic threat, requiring immediate containment. 15 species are demanding our complete withdrawal to the Sol system. But here's what's really concerning. 12 species have formally requested to join human space. Dr. Kim Hyo-rin, the philosopher and ethicist who had been advising the government since the prophecies were first discovered, added her analysis. "The galaxy is fragmenting along ideological lines. The traditionalists want to maintain the status quo at any cost. The eliminationists believe humanity must be destroyed before we corrupt more species. But the progressives, primarily younger aliens who worked with us during the border crisis, see us as their liberation from millennia of enforced stagnation." Representative Lee Da-yoon, humanity's youngest diplomatic liaison, brought news from the frontier colonies where the crisis was most acute. The alien refugees living in human space are refusing to return to their home worlds. They're saying that experiencing unlimited possibility has made them psychologically incapable of accepting their previous limitations. Madam President, we have nearly 1 million alien beings who consider themselves honorary humans now. President An moved to the vast observation window that looked out over Earth's capital city, watching the steady stream of interstellar traffic that represented humanity's far-flung civilization. In 4 centuries, humans had accomplished what most species took millennia to achieve, and the ancient record suggested that this was exactly what the galaxy needed, if it could survive the process. Show me the external threat analysis, she requested. Admiral Park activated the holographic display, revealing long-range sensor data that had been classified until this moment. Deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Based on the Valdari Archive's historical patterns, we believe we're looking at a truly hostile extragalactic force, the kind of threat that the ancient prophecies suggested would eventually arrive. The display showed a wave of destruction moving through the outer galaxy at incredible speed, consuming entire star systems and leaving nothing but empty space behind. The estimated time of arrival at the galaxy's inhabited regions was less than 2 years. This is what the Valdari were trying to warn us about, Dr. Kim observed, her voice filled with grim understanding. The galaxy has spent 50,000 years preparing for the wrong threat. They've been so focused on preventing internal conflict that they've left themselves defenseless against external invasion. Representative Lee brought up additional data from her diplomatic contacts. Madam President, the progressive faction has made a remarkable proposal. They want to create the first truly voluntary galactic alliance based on shared growth rather than imposed limitations. Young aliens from 37 species have already begun coordinating joint research and exploration projects. The scope of the choice facing humanity became crystal clear. They could accept the limitations demanded by the Galactic Confederation and help maintain the stagnant status quo that would leave everyone defenseless against the approaching threat. They could fight a war against vastly superior numbers and likely lose, taking their transformative influence with them into extinction. Or they could attempt something that had never been tried in galactic history, prove that growth and cooperation weren't mutually exclusive. What are our chances in a conventional war? President An asked. Admiral Park's response was brutally honest. Against the entire Galactic Confederation? Minimal. We have technological advantages in some areas, but they have overwhelming numerical superiority. However, if the progressive faction joins us, the mathematics change dramatically. And if we accept limitations, Dr. Kim answered with the weight of historical analysis behind her words. The Valdari Archive shows exactly what happens to species that embrace stagnation. Extinction within 3,000 to 5,000 years, every single time. We'd be saving the galaxy from the threat of unlimited growth by ensuring everyone dies slowly, instead of adapting to meet real challenges. The president turned back to her advisors, her decision already forming. Tell me about the third option. What would it actually look like to prove that growth and cooperation can coexist? Representative Lee's eyes lit up with the same enthusiasm that had drawn alien refugees to human space. The Progressive Alliance has been developing detailed plans. Instead of territorial expansion based on species boundaries, we create joint colonies where multiple species work together. Instead of competing for resources, we share terraforming and exploration technologies. Instead of viewing the galaxy as having limited space, we focus on expanding into previously uninhabitable regions. The young aliens who've worked with us have already begun implementing these ideas, Admiral Park added. They're calling it cooperative expansion, growth that strengthens everyone involved rather than threatening established territories. The moment of decision arrived with an urgent communication from the frontier regions. Captain Ryu Sungmin's face appeared in the holographic display, his expression mixing excitement with concern. Madam President, the extragalactic threat has accelerated its approach. New sensor data suggests arrival within 18 months. But there's something else. The Progressive Alliance has begun coordinating a joint response. Alien and human engineers are working together on defensive technologies that neither species could have developed alone. Dr. Kim leaned forward. Captain, what kind of technologies? Adaptive shielding systems that combine human innovation with Zephyrian crystalline technology. Faster-than-light communication networks using hegemony quantum principles and human, intuitive interfaces. Weapon systems that... He paused, seemingly amazed by his own words. Weapon systems that literally grow stronger when operated by mixed crews from different species. The revelation struck the assembled leaders like a physical blow. The ancient prophecies hadn't just warned about humanity forcing a choice between growth and stagnation. They had predicted that when the choice was finally made, it would determine whether the galaxy could survive threats that no single species could face alone. President An made her decision with the certainty that came from understanding both the risks and the necessity of the path ahead. Send this message to every human colony and every alien government. Earth formally establishes the Galactic Expansion Alliance. Any species that chooses growth over stagnation, cooperation over isolation, and shared possibility over individual limitation is welcome to join us. Admiral Park raised a practical concern. Madam President, this means we're potentially declaring war on 2/3 of the known galaxy. No, Admiral, she replied, watching the first mixed species defense fleets already forming on the display. We're offering them the chance to survive what's coming. The traditionalists and eliminationists can choose to fight us while the real threat approaches, or they can choose to grow alongside us and face the challenge together. Representative Lee was already coordinating with Progressive Alliance members. Madam President, initial response is overwhelming. 17 species have formally joined the Alliance in the past hour. Young members of 12 additional species are defying their governments to participate in joint defense preparations. The final transmission came from Dr. Kang Eunji at the Xenobiology Research Station. Madam President, something remarkable is happening. The mixed crews working on joint defense projects are achieving breakthrough innovations at rates that shouldn't be mathematically possible. It's as if diversity of thought combined with shared purpose creates exponential rather than additive results. As Earth's leaders watched the galaxy divide itself between those who chose growth and those who chose stagnation, the ancient prophecy reached its fulfillment. Humanity had indeed forced every species to make the fundamental choice between expanding together or dying separately. The extragalactic threat approaching from beyond the rim would arrive to find a galaxy transformed. Half would be defended by the most innovative alliance in galactic history, species working together with unprecedented cooperation and shared purpose. The other half would face annihilation with the same defensive strategies that had failed every previous galactic civilization. President An looked out at the stars, knowing that in 18 months, the universe would discover whether the ancient Valdari had been prophets of doom or harbingers of hope. The choice had been made, and now humanity, along with every species brave enough to grow alongside them, would discover if unlimited possibility was indeed the galaxy's salvation or its final destruction. The prophecy was complete, but the real test was just beginning.